ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपादकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सकगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सकगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरतस्वे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूप स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to our weekly study of Bhagavad Gita. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translated and commented by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So last week we saw from the book the preface and the setting the scene, for the background for the book we saw. And then this week we are going to continue to read from the book the introduction. In the beginning, there is an introduction. So this introduction was actually delivered as a lecture to Bhagavad Gita in the 1966 when A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, see, when he went to, at the age of 70, 1965, he went to America on the instruction of his spiritual master to give this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to the English-speaking world. So he received this instruction in 1922 when he first time met. Also later in 1936, just before his spiritual master left the world, a week before he left the world, he received the same instruction in letter. So he took that instruction as his life's mission. So he prepared his life. It took like almost 40 years for him, meditated on the instruction from 1922 to 1965, he went to America. So in 1966, when nobody was there, one of the first things he did in his movement, even though nobody was there literally, one person single-handedly did all these things. So one of the first things he did, he is buying a tape recorder. Using the tape recorder, when nobody was there, he gave a lecture on the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. It is a masterpiece of an essay. It was have been transcribed. It's almost 36 pages now. It's part of the book. So that's what it is there in the beginning. And then beginning before the first chapter, this introduction is there in this Bhagavad Gita as it is book. So in Vedic culture, before beginning any endeavor, whether in culturally or spiritually, in whatever matter it may be, always there is, Mangala Charana prayers are offered. Mangala means auspiciousness. Mangala Acharana means invoking auspiciousness. So before start any endeavor in a spiritually or culturally, that this Mangalacharana prayers are offered. Following the tradition, Srila Prabhupada also offers these prayers in the beginning of the work of Bhagavad Gita. One of the acharyas, Krishnadas Kaviraja Goswami, one who authored Chaitanya Charitamrita approximately 500 years ago. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he mentions Mangalacharana constitutes of three types or three purposes of Mangalacharana. One is called Vastu Nirdesh. Vastu Nirdesh means establishing the object of the work. Before the work is started, Mangalacharana prayers are offered. In the Mangalacharana prayers, the author will establish the object of the work. Vastu Nirdesh. Vastu means, generally, literally in the word object. Nirdesh means establishing. Establishing what is the purpose of the work, what is the object of the work. That is Vastu Nirdesh. The second type of Mangalacharana prayers is called Namaskar. Namaskar means offering obeisances. Offering obeisances to one's spiritual master and the parampara, and then offering obeisances to, the Ishta Devata, one's own favorite deity, Ishta Devata, that is Ashirvad and Namaskar. And the third type of Mangalacharana is Ashirvad. Ashirvad is offering benedictions to the audience and to the readers. Also, seeking benediction from the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master for the benefit of, the audiences and the readers, as well as for the author himself, seeking benediction as well. So these are the three purposes or three types of Mangalacharana prayers. And in this Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srila Prabhupada gives this Mangalacharana prayers. So predominantly these Mangalacharana prayers are, Namaskar, offering obeisances. That's what his Mangalacharana prayers are. So the first prayer in that is the two stanzas. I have it in the screen. So also, if you have the book, you can see in the introduction, these prayers are there. And also, if you don't have the book, you can see in the website vedabase.com. You can see that as well. But either way, you can see this two stanzas. The first prayer is, offering obeisances to one's own spiritual master. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Shakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. The word Om is significant because the Om represents the Supreme Lord. Krishna tells the same thing in Bhagavad Gita. The word Om, he is actually of all the mantras. He is the Pranava mantra. Pranava is Om. He represents Pranava. So the Pranava mantra Om literally means the Supreme Lord. So Om, all the Vedic mantras begins with the word Om. That means invoking, the Supreme Lord's presence or offering obeisances to him. So Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam also starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om actually, as I mentioned, it signifies the Supreme Lord. Om Namo means Namaste or offering obeisances. Bhagavate to Bhagavan. Who is that Bhagavan? Vasudevaya. And the son of Vasudeva. Vasudeva means son of Vasudeva, Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That's how Srimad Bhagavatam also begins. Here in this prayer, Om Ajnana Timirandasya. Ajnana means ignorance. The word Salakaya means there's in Ayurveda, there's an instrument called Shalaka. What is the Shalaka instrument does? So when somebody gets a cataract, what happens in cataract? One's vision is blocked by the formation of some kind of a fluid, some kind of a material, in the eye. When the cataract forms, the vision is blocked. So nowadays, in modern surgery, they do the surgery to remove the cataract so that the vision becomes normal. So similarly, in Ayurveda, there is an equipment called Shalaka. So we're using the Shalaka equipment. What they do is they apply an ointment. Anjana. Anjana is ointment. When you apply that ointment using the Shalaka instrument, the cataract gets melted. When the cataract is melted, one can see properly. One gets the proper vision. Similarly, here the prayer is offered, I am actually born in the darkest of ignorance. Now, everybody who takes birth in this material world, by default, they are born in ignorance. They're covered by this layer of ignorance. What is the ignorance starts with? It's called false ego, ahankar. So the false ego is the one in the thematic study of Bhagavad Gita. We studied that in the topic of soul. We saw that soul is covered by two layers of body. One is the subtle body, Shushma Sharira. Another is Stula Sharira, gross body. The gross body is made up of earth, water, fire, air, and space. And then the subtle body is covered by mind, intelligence, and false ego. Right? Mana, Buddhi, and Ahankar. Ahankar is the layer which covers. The first layer which covers the soul. What is that Ahankar does? It makes the soul to think that whichever body I am residing, it makes me to think that I am that body. Ahankar is the one which makes that I am this body. So everybody takes birth in this world thinking that I am this body. So that is because of the presence of this layer of ignorance, Ahankar. So everybody in the material world, as I said, is taking birth in this ignorance, right? By default, in spiritual world, everything is full of light. Everything is illuminated, everything is naturally existing by Brahman effulgence, Brahma Jyoti. In material world, right, the material world is that one portion of the creation where it is covered by this cloud of Pradhan. The material energy is covering. So because of the covering of the cloud, by default, everything is dark. By default, in material world, everything is dark. You need something to illuminate. You need the sun, you need the moon, you need the fire, or you need, electricity. You need something to illuminate in this material world. By default, everything is dark. You need something to illuminate to see. Whereas in spiritual world, by default, everything is full of effulgent. Everything is full of light. So in spiritual world, the soul is full of knowledge. Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. In the material world, it's covered by this layer of ignorance, Ahankar, right? Starting with Ahankar. So it is by default born in ignorance. Here, he is playing to the spiritual master how, when using the Shalaka instrument, when somebody is apply this Anjana, the medicine, which dissolves the cataract to get proper vision. Similarly, one prays to the spiritual master. He offers his obeisances, seeking blessings that please give with the ointment of knowledge. Remove the ignorance through which I am born. So that's the prayer here, right? I am born in darkest of ignorance, O spiritual master. You have opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer respectable obeisances to unto that spiritual master. So that's the first, prayer. The next stanza is Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Padantikam He's saying, next he is offering prayer obeisances to Srila Rupa Goswami. Who is Rupa Goswami? Rupa Goswami is an Acharya 500 years ago, appeared. He is in contemporary of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He accepted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the spiritual master and the Lord. So on the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, the two brothers, they actually compiled so many Vedic literatures. And Rupa Goswami compiled one of the literatures based on Srimad Bhagavatam. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reviewed that literature, he became ecstatic. He made a comment, how come, Sri Rupa understands my heart. Based on understanding my heart, he compiled this literature. At that time, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says, Sarupa Damodara Goswami says that, oh my Lord, because he had received mercy of you, that is why he is able to understand your heart. Here it is mentioned, Sri Chaitanya Mano Abhishtam, one who understands the desire of the Lord Chaitanya, right? Based on the desire of Lord Chaitanya, what he did? Stapitam ena bhutale, established throughout the world. What is that? This Krishna consciousness movement, using the authority of the scriptures. Swayamrupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. I am offering obeisance to I am taking shelter on the lotus feet of Sri Rupa, who understood the innermost desires of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and established on this world, right? Stapitam Yena Bhutale. Bhutale means on this world, on this earth. Stapitam, established. What is that? This seed for Krishna conscious movement. I am taking shelter at the lotus feet of such a personality. So that is the next sloka. The next sloka is, the part 2, right? Vandegam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sagagana Raghunathanvitam Tamsa Jivam Sadvaidam Savadutam Bharjana Setam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. In this prayer, he is offering obeisance again to the spiritual master, right? The lotus feet of the spiritual master, and actually not only one spiritual master. There are one can have many spiritual master. There are two types of spiritual masters. One is called Diksha Guru. Through him, one gets connected to the parampara, get initiated, and the other spiritual master is Shiksha Guru, instructing spiritual master. Initiating spiritual master and instructing spiritual masters. One can have only one initiating spiritual master, Diksha Guru, but one can have many Shiksha Guru, because all of them are teaching the same instruction as the spiritual master, one's Diksha Guru, based on the scripture. So he is offering obeisances to his Diksha Guru, and then the instructing spiritual masters, many Shiksha Guru. Gurun means plural, the word. Guru means spiritual master, singular. Guru means spiritual masters, plural. So one can have many spiritual masters. That represents here Shiksha Guru. And the Parampara, all the Vaishnavas. And then Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and the Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Jiva Goswami and Gopal Bhatta Goswami. These Shad Goswamis of Vrindavan. He is offering obeisances to all the 6 Goswamis. And then he is offering obeisances to, Lord Chaitanya and his associates. Who are his associates? Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, and then Srivas Thakur. This Panchatattva, the 5 personalities, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Prabhu, and then Srivas Thakur. And their associates, the entourage of all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. He is offering obeisances to all of them. And then he is offering obeisance to Shri Radha and Krishna, right? Shri Radha, Krishna Padan, Sakagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Nitamscha. And all the associates of Radha and Krishna, starting from Lalita and Vishaka, right? All the gopis, the 8 gopis are the primary gopis of, primary gopis who assist Srimati Radharani in serving Krishna. To all of them, he is offering obeisances. So that is this verse. And the next verse, He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Here he is calling out to Krishna. Hey Krishna. Hey Krishna means he is offering, oh my Lord Sri Krishna. In a vocative form, he is calling out to the Lord. Oh Lord Sri Krishna. Karuna Sindhu. Karuna Sindhu means we are the ocean of mercy. Lord, the Supreme Lord is the ocean of mercy. Karuna Sindhu. And then Dina Bandhu means actually he is the friend of the distressed. Dina Bandhu. Dina means, people who don't have any shelter. People who are stressed in this world. Bandhu means friend. Dina Bandhu means, oh my dear Lord, Shri Krishna, oh ocean of mercy, oh friend of the distressed. Jagatpate means he is the one, protecting the entire world. Jagatpate, he is the Lord of the world, Lord of the universe. Gopisha. Gopisha means the Lord of the gopis, the master of the gopis, the controller of the gopis. Gopisha. Gopika Kanta, one who attracts all the gopis. Gopika Kanta means attracting. Gopika means one who attracts all the gopis towards his lotus feet by playing flute. Gopika Kanta. Radha Kanta. Radha Kanta means he also attracts the love of Srimati Radharani. One who attracts the love of Srimati Radharani. Radha Kanta Namostude. Offer my obeisances. So now he is offering obeisances to Lord Shri Krishna. The next verse, he is offering obeisances to Srimati Radharani. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi. Gaura means golden. Tapta Kanchana means molten golden. Anga means limbs or body. He is offering obeisance to Srimati Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like a molten gold. Srimati Radharani's bodily complexion is like a molten gold. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi. Radhe. Oh dear Srimati Radharani. Oh Kotifum. Oh Radha. Vrindavaneshwari. The queen of Vrindavan. The master. One might actually think that, Krishna is the master of Vrindavan. No. Even Krishna is subservient in Vrindavan. Krishna is the king in Dwaraka, whereas in Vrindavan, it is Srimati Radha. Krishna surrenders to the will of Srimati Radharani as well here in Vrindavan. So she is Vrindavaneshwari. It's not kingdom of Vrindavan. It's queendom of Vrindavan. We can call it like that because Radha is the queen of Vrindavan. Vrishabhanu Sute Devi. Vrishabhanu, the father of Srimati Radharani is Vrishabhanu. Vrishabhanu Sute Devi means, O goddess, O daughter of Sri Vrishabhanu. Srimati Radharani is daughter of Vrishabhanu. Pranamami Haripriye. Haripriye means, Priya means one who is dear. Haripriya means one dear to Lord Sri Hari. Pranamami, let me offer my obeisances to Srimati Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold. She is the queen of Vrindavan, the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and then she is very dear to Lord Hari Shri Krishna. Haripriya. Actually, I don't know how many of you know the story of Tirupati Balaji. Tirupati Balaji, how he appeared in this world. That story is mentioned in one of the Puranas. So one time all the Devatas, among them, they had a doubt of the three Murtis, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, who is supreme. They had the doubt among the Devatas, the demigods. So then they approached Bhrigu Muni asked him to, clear their doubts. Who is the supreme among them? So Bhrigu Muni, wanted to test all the three personalities. First, he went to Brahmalok to see Lord Brahma. When he went to Brahmalok in front of Brahma, Bhrigu Muni did not offer obeisances. Bhrigu Muni is the son of actually Brahma. Brahma, from Brahma only all the Saptarishis are born. So one of them is Bhrigu. Bhrigu is son of Brahma. Whenever son comes to meet the father, the son should, offer, respects, by doing namaskar or touching his feet or falling down on his feet, offer respects. One should offer respect. In this case, purposefully, Bhrigu did not offer respect. When he did that, right, when he did not do the offer respect, basically he kind of insulted Brahma. So Brahma becomes angry. But Brahma, him being, the most intelligent person, right, on this creation, the creator, the secondary creator of this universe, Brahma, he controlled himself. He self-controlled himself. He tried to control his anger. Even though he controlled his anger on the behavior of Bhrigu Muni, but still the anger showed up in his eyes. His eyes became a little red. When the anger showed up in the eyes, by becoming red, he understood immediately Bhrigu Muni that, oh, he is not supreme because he is not able to control the anger. He became angry because of my behavior. Next, he went to Shivalok. He did little more than, what he did to Brahma. Brahmaji did not offer respect. So that insulted him. And Brahma became angry. Now here, Bhrigu Muni, when he went to Shivalok to see Lord Shiva, what happens? Who's Lord Shiva? Lord Shiva in this creation, in this universe, he is son of Brahma. When in the beginning, when Brahma became angry, from between the anger, the eyebrows, between the space between the eyebrows, he manifested as a child. From that anger is born Rudra, Lord Shiva. Even though Lord Shiva exists outside of this universe in Mahesh Dham as Shambhu with Shakti, he manifests within this universe through Brahma as son of Brahma. So he comes as a son of Brahma. Here, Bhrigu Muni is also son of Brahma. That means they are brothers. Bhrigu and Lord Shiva, they are brothers. Whenever a brother meets another brother, what they do, they immediately go and embrace. No? They go and embrace each other, right? So Lord Shiva run towards Bhrigu Muni, trying to embrace him. At that time, Bhrigu Muni starts, what is this? What is, don't come. What is this? You are actually having all this ashes from the crematorium on your body. You are having skulls and you have snakes around your neck. You have a garland of skulls on your neck. No, you are unclean. Don't touch me like that. He stops him in embracing him. That makes Lord Shiva angry. I had come to show my affection to, to my brother by embracing him. You are stopping me. You are calling out, this, that I am unclean, like that. Actually, Lord Shiva, he is the most compassionate person. Why he wears this skulls, the garland of skulls? Why he has the snake? Why he has the ashes from the crematorium on his body? Because he is the most compassionate person. All these bhutas and pechachas who don't have a body, who are all actually hanging around in this material world without any shelter, to show them mercy towards them, he dresses in this way so that they can approach him, so that he can give their mercy, to the Bhutaganas. So he becomes angry and then he takes his Trishul and he is about to kill Bhrigu. How come he insulted? How come you are behaving like this? At that time, because of mercy of Devi Parvati, Devi Parvati stops Lord Shiva. Please, please don't kill your brother. No, please give away your anger. At that time, Brighamuni realizes that he is not supreme because he is not able to control anger. Next, he goes to Vishnulok. He goes to the milk ocean, and then he sees Lord Vishnu. This time he did what to Brahma? He committed offense by not offering obeisances. To Lord Shiva, he committed offense by speaking something bad about him. Now, to Brahma, to Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, what he did, when he went to see to see Vishnu, he did not actually just disrespect him in mind by not offering obeisances. He did not just disrespect by speaking some bad words, inappropriate words, but he physically insulted by kicking him on the chest. When he kicked him on the chest of Lord Vishnu, but Lord Vishnu touched his feet when Brighamuni kicked him on the chest. Vishnu grabbed his feet and then he said, "Oh sage, oh sadhu, please forgive me. You know, my chest is so hard, it might have hurt your feet. Let me massage your feet." Like that, he responds. Immediately, Brighamuni understands that he did not become angry. Lord Brahma became angry, but he tried to control his anger. Anger showed up in his eyes. Lord Shiva became angry and he about to kill him. Whereas Lord Vishnu did not even, it started his hiding anger. When he kicked him, his response was not anger, but offering respects and trying to, massage his feet. When he saw the behavior of Vishnu, immediately he declared Lord Vishnu is supreme. So even though Lord Vishnu was not offended by getting kicked by Lord the Brighamuni, there is another personality was offended at that time. Who is that? Lakshmi. So Lakshmi became angry because Lakshmi also resides on the chest of Lord Vishnu. So when he kicked, Lakshmi was offended. But Vishnu was not offended. Vishnu offered respect. By suing that, Lakshmi became angry. Then she said, I want to leave you because you are, this sadhu disrespected us, disrespected me, but you are respecting that sadhu, you are offering massage to the feet of the sadhu. Like that, she said. And then she left. She came to the earth planet. And then she was performing tapasya. Where she performed tapasya? In Kolhapur. That's the region where she performed tapasya. Later, Lord Vishnu comes as Balaji to get marry, again Lakshmi in the form of Padmavati, and then take her back to spiritual world, Vaikuntha Lok. So that story, this is the story of Balaji. And people generally, before taking darshan of Balaji in Tirupati, they go to Kolhapur. First, they take darshan of Lakshmi in Kolhapur, and then they come to Tirupati. Hence, the government of India, they actually have a rail service between Tirupati and Kolhapur. When they came up with this concept of a rail service, the train service from Kolhapur to Tirupati, they seeked out into public, please suggest a name for this train. Different people gave different, choice or names for this train. One of the devotees of ISKCON, he recommended a name for this train called Hari Priya Express. Lakshmi, who's dear to, Lord Vishnu. Lakshmi is also an expansion of Srimati Radharani. Hari Priya is actually Lakshmi or Radharani. Hari Priya Express, that's why the train from Kolhapur to Tirupati is called Hari Priya Express. Here I gave this word. The Hari Priya is very, very wonderful word. He is offering obeisances to Srimati Radharani. In the next verse, Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Here he is offering obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are like desire tree. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha. Kalpataru means desire tree, who can fulfill everyone's desires. Let me offer obeisances to all the Vaishnavas who are just like desire trees who can fulfill desires of everyone. And then Patitanam Pavanebhyo, they are actually full of compassion to fallen souls. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. To such Vaishnavas, let me offer obeisances. Namo Namaha. And then the next verse, he is offering obeisances to the Panchatattva, Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhara Pandit, Srivas Thakur, and Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, the entourage of devotees of Lord Gauranga, right? Panchatattva, Krishna Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda, and Advaita Acharya. Actually, they are all same Lord. Expands into these five tattvas. The Lord who comes as his own devotee, and he comes as the spiritual master, he comes as, the associates, like that in different forms, he comes Panchatattva. And then he's chanting this Maha Mantra. As we all know, this Maha Mantra mentioned in the Kalisantarana Upanishad. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The meaning of this mantra is actually, oh Lord Shri Krishna, oh energy of the Lord, oh all attractive Supreme Lord, please engage me in your devotional service. That's actually the meaning of this mantra. The Acharyas had given commentary, purport to this mantra, right? So this is the Mangalacharana prayers, consists of this 7 prayers. First is the prayers to the spiritual master, including Rupa Goswami. Second is spiritual prayer to spiritual master, Vaishnavas, and to the associates of the 6 Goswamis, the Panchatattva and Radharani and Lalita and Vishaka. Second is prayer to Lord Shri Krishna. Third is prayer to Lord Shri Krishna. Fourth is prayer to Srimati Radharani. Fifth is prayers to all the Vaishnavas. And then sixth is prayers to the Panchatattva. And then seventh is chanting of this Maha Mantra. Every week, before we start the class, we will recite these prayers, so that over the period of time, we will be able to memorize these prayers. And it's very, very auspicious to memorize these Mangalacharana prayers. So every week, we will recite together these prayers. You try to see these prayers in the book, as well as in the website or in the PPT, the slides I have. So please try to memorize these prayers so that we can recite together every week before we start our class. This is the prayers I offer every week as for before the class. So further in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada writes the necessity of Bhagavad Gita. What is the need of Bhagavad Gita? So first, Bhagavad Gita is also known as Gita Upanishad. It is the essence of all Vedic knowledge, the most important Upanishads. Even though there are many commentaries available on Bhagavad Gita, there are like hundreds of commentaries, 300 plus commentaries on Bhagavad Gita available. Why this another edition of Bhagavad Gita? What is the necessity? Prabhupada writes that even though there are many of them are there are many Bhagavad Gita is there, commentary is there, but strictly speaking, none of them are authoritative, because none of them is presenting Bhagavad Gita in the spirit of Bhagavad Gita as it is. They are all giving their own, expressing their own opinion, than without touching the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. And what is that spirit of Bhagavad Gita? That is also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita itself, right? Like, right? If a doctor gives the medicine, you cannot whimsically take that medicine. You have to take as per the instruction or the label given on the medicine, or as per the instruction of the doctor. You cannot whimsically take a medicine. Similarly, how to understand the Bhagavad Gita, what is the spirit of Bhagavad Gita, that is also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita itself. Right? Here, Bhagavad Gita should be accepted as it is, as given by the speaker, Lord Sri Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna establishes, we know that very well, right? In the Ishvara topic, we saw that the 5 themes of Bhagavad Gita, when we saw on the theme of Ishvara, on the theme of the Supreme Lord, how Krishna establishes himself as the Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna establishes very clearly, Agam Sarvasya Prabhu, Matta Sarvam Pravartate, Iti Matva Bhajante Mam, Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha. Right? He's saying, I am the source of everything. Everything is emanating from me. And I am the controller of all the devatas and all the planets. And then I am the source of everything. So one who knows this truth, right, worships me with all his heart. Like that Krishna establishes in many places in Bhagavad Gita, quotes the authority. Also, this is confirmed by the great acharyas as well, like Shankaracharya, Ramanacharya, Madhvacharya, and Nimbarka Swami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, many of them. In the past, all the great acharyas confirmed what Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is also mentioned in the other scriptures, like, right, Brahma Samhita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and all the Puranas, and all the Vedas, Veda mantras, everywhere it is mentioned, right? So therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken as directed by Lord Krishna, that one should accept, the authority of Krishna, that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. So also, right, this knowledge, Krishna, when Krishna tells in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right, how this knowledge was received. Evam parampara praptam, imam rajarshiyo vidha, sakalena magata yoga nashta parantapa. Krishna is telling in the beginning of creation, I spoke this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to Vivashvan, sun god, and he spoke to Manu, and Manu spoke to Ikshvaku, the founder of Surya dynasty, right? Surya Vamsa, the kings of Surya Vamsa, right? In that only Surya Vamsa kings only, in the Ikshvaku dynasty only, Lord Rama appeared. Like that, it was coming in a disciplic succession. Over the course of time, the knowledge as it is appears to be lost. And Lord Krishna has descended to re-establish this message of Bhagavad Gita. He chose Arjuna because he is a devotee of Krishna and he is friend of Krishna, right? These are the qualities required to understand Bhagavad Gita. One should be a devotee of Krishna and one should be friend of Krishna, means one should be non-envy of Krishna. And the 3 classes of transcendentalist, the Jnani, the impersonalist, the Yogi, the meditator, and Paramatma, and Bhakta, the devotee of the Lord, who has relationship with the Lord in 5 forms. What are the 5 forms in which one can have relationship with the Lord? The relationship with the Lord can be in 5 forms. One is in the neutral, passive state, Shantarasa. Another is in active state, Dasyarasa. The example of passive state, Shantarasa, is trees and flute in Vrindavan, in the spiritual world. And then active state, Dasyarasa, is like example is Hanumanji. And then many of the, the servants in actually Vrindavan. And then another is one can have a relationship with the Lord in the friendship way. Sakya Rasa, example is Arjuna. And then Vatsalya Rasa, one can have relationship with in parental affection. Example is Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, and then Devaki, Vasudev, many of them. And then another is one can have relationship with the Lord in conjugal, as a conjugal lover in Madhurya Rasa, like the young gopis of Vraja, Vrindavan. So in this one can have relationship with the Lord in the spiritual world in one's constitutional position in these 5 ways. Swarupa Siddhi means attaining perfection to one's constitutional position. Everyone has that particular relationship with Lord Krishna That original relationship, original form of we all have is called Swarupa. At present, we had forgotten the Lord and our eternal relationship with the Lord because we are covered by this material body. And that relationship can be revived by the process of devotional service. That stage of attaining that perfection, reviving that relationship, forgotten relationship, is called Swarupa Siddhi, attaining perfection of one's original position. Right? And then how Bhagavad Gita is understood by Arjuna, that is also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, verses 10.12 to 10.14. Right? Arjuna uvacha param brahma parandama pavitram paramam bhavan purusham shashvatam divyam adi devam ajam vibhum agushvatmam rishiye sarva devarishit naratastada ashito devalo vyasa swayam chaiva bravishame. Arjuna said, "Oh Supreme Lord, you are the personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest, and all the sages such as Narada, Ashita, Devala, and Vyasa confirm this truth about you. And now you are yourself declaring this truth unto me, and I accept you, as you said. Param Brahma means you are the supreme truth. There is nothing superior to Krishna. Krishna says, right? In the Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter, there is Nata Parataram, there is no truth superior to me, right? He's saying, Sutre Maniganava, how the world is sustained by me, like a pearl necklace strung by the string. The thread is the basis of a pearl necklace. Like that, the whole world is sustained by me, and there is no truth superior to me. Like in the 7th chapter, Krishna tells, Param Brahma, right? He is the supreme absolute truth. Parandama is the supreme abode, right? He is the one sustains all these material universes. Sustain all the material universes sustained at the head of Anantashesha. Anantashesha is nothing but the expansion of Krishna in his servitor form. Anantashesha is expansion of Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma is expansion of Krishna himself in the spiritual world. Right? He is Parandama, the ultimate abode. Right? Right? No one can know him. Neither the Devatas nor the demons can understand your personality. Right? Pavitram is the purest. He is not contaminated by any material contamination. Paramam Bhavan is the absolute truth. Purusham, you are the supreme person, supreme enjoyer. Shashvatam, you are eternal. Divyam, you are transcendental. Adi Devam, you are the original Lord. You are the Lord of the Lord. He is the Deva Deva. He is the unborn. Ajam. Right? He does not take birth at all. He is existing from the beginning. He is the original creator. He is the creator of all the creation. Greatest. Vibhum means he is the greatest. Right? Neither the demigods nor the demons know you or personality. You yourself are declaring all this truth about you to me. And all the great acharyas like Narada Muni, Ashita, Devala, and Vyasadeva all had accepted this truth. They say the same thing. I totally accept whatever you see as the truth. This is the conclusion one should come after studying Bhagavad Gita. This is the conclusion Arjuna had come after studying Bhagavad Gita. We should also come to the same conclusion when we read Bhagavad Gita properly. So, how one Bhagavad Gita should be understood? In the spirit of devotion, right? In that, when we say spirit of devotion, one should accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord. One should not think that I am equal to Krishna. Krishna is also another person. I am also a person. Just Krishna is a, maybe, he is better than me a little bit. No, one should not think like that. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should not think Krishna is ordinary personality or not even great personality, but Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Whenever he speaks in Bhagavad Gita, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, right? Bhagavan means one who possesses all the opulences in complete. What are the opulences? all beauty, all wealth, all strength, all knowledge, all renunciation, and all fame, right? So in this mood only one should understand Bhagavad Gita. One should try to, when one may try to understand Bhagavad Gita, at least theoretically one should accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the beginning. Without accepting at least theoretically Krishna is Bhagavan, one approaches Bhagavad Gita doesn't make any sense. By accepting at least theoretically in the beginning, when we read Bhagavad Gita, by mercy of Krishna, one can realize that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, right? One should read Bhagavad Gita in this submissive spirit. Else it is very difficult to understand. It will remain as a great mystery. The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver the mankind from nescience and of material existence. Every man in this material world is full of perplexities, right? Or full of difficulty and anxiety in the material world. If one wants to get relief from this anxiety, one wants to transcend this material existence and go back to spiritual world, one needs to take shelter of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita gives knowledge how to deliver oneself from this material world, right? We are all put into this asat because of our desire, but we are all eternal. We are all sat. We are put in the asat material body. If you want to get out of this material body and go back to spiritual world, one should take Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita gives that knowledge. Out of so many sufferings, many people are suffering in this world, right? But hardly one inquires, why am I suffering, right? If somebody makes that inquiry, why am I suffering, instead of just trying to get relief from the suffering, one should ask the question, why am I suffering? If you want to get solution from this suffering, one should make this inquiry. Brahma Jigyasa. That's what Brahma Sutra says, right? Atato Brahma Jigyasa. What does it mean? One should make inquiry into the absolute truth. So when we understand Bhagavad Gita, when we study Bhagavad Gita gives this absolute truth, right? For such a sincere student, Bhagavad Gita makes sense, and for him, for those sincere students, Bhagavad Gita is spoken, right? The reasons for Lord Krishna's appearance, that is also Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, right? To re-establish the real purpose of life, right? Out of many human beings, some awakens to this in an inquiry. Of them, one who actually enters into the spiritual understanding of position, for them Bhagavad Gita is spoken, right? Krishna says, Manushyanam Sagaschreshu Kaschit Yatati Siddhaye Yadatam Api Siddhanam Kaschin Mam Veti Tattvataka. Out of thousands of people, hardly one is trying to attain perfection. Out of thousands of people trying to attain perfection, hardly one attains perfection. Out of thousands of people who attained perfection, Siddhas, hardly one knows me in truth, right? That's what Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, third verse of Bhagavad Gita, in the 7th chapter, right? Also Krishna, out of his mercy upon the living entities, right? He speaks Bhagavad Gita through Arjuna, right? And then Arjuna's position is eternally as a close associate of the Lord. He is above ignorance. He is not in ignorance. He is put in that situation so that Krishna can deliver the message of Bhagavad Gita. And the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita we all know: Ishvara, the supreme controller God; Jiva, the living entity, controlled and the conditioned living entity in this material world; Prakriti, the material nature; Kala, the eternal time; and then Karma, the activity of the living entity. Out of this, 4 of the eternal, and the 5th activity, karma, is not eternal, right? The 5 topics in detail we saw in the thematic study, so I'm just going to skip over this. You can read again in the Bhagavad Gita as it is book at your free time, this introduction nicely. It's a very, very wonderful essay. I'm just skipping over all these things because we covered all these concepts in the thematic study of Bhagavad Gita, so I don't want to repeat those things again here. And then the difference between the Lord and the living entity is given again in the introduction Srila Prabhupada gives based on the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Kshetrajna, the knower of the field, is the Lord. Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. Krishna, living entity is also known as the knower of the field. Krishna is the knower of all field, all bodies, and the living entity Jiva is knower of one's own field, one body, the local field, and he is conscious, right, of all body, whereas the Jiva is conscious of one's own body, and he is present in the living of all the living entity, at the heart of all the living entity as Paramatma, whereas the living entity is presents its own body in the region of the heart. He is the controller of all the bodies, the Lord, the living entities, is controlled and conditioned. And then he is not affected, Krishna is Lord, is not affected by the karma, whereas the living entity is the actions, the choices in front of him is determined by their past karma. They are entangled in the material world by their actions and reactions. The Lord travels with the living entity to his next destination out of compassion, whereas the living entity enters into another body based on one's karma, the transmigration of the soul. Karma can be changed when the living entities act in the mode of goodness, right? Hence the karma is not eternal, not permanent. And then Prabhupada further says, what is consciousness and what is bhakti? The Jiva is conscious, the Supreme Lord is supreme conscious, right? The Jiva's consciousness is not, generated by the association of matter. Consciousness is not generated by the association of matter. The material consciousness is generated by the association of matter. The Jiva's consciousness is covered, like the light is covered by a colored glass or the fire is covered by the ash. The Lord descends, when he descends in the material world, he is not covered by the material energy. He is always the supreme. Krishna tells the Bhagavad Gita that I am not affected by the three modes of material energy. Right, all these themes we studied already. I'm going to skip over again. The three types of Shakti the Lord has: Antaranga Shakti, Tadasya Shakti, and Bahiranga Shakti. Antaranga Shakti is the internal energy, Chandini, Samvit, and Ladini. And then Tadasya Shakti is the Jiva, and the Bahiranga Shakti, right, is the external energy or the material world. All these things Prabhupada nicely explains in this introduction. I'm just glancing the overview here. The different manifestation of the Lord, Krishna, Prabhupada explains again, the Lord manifests in different ways. Satchidananda Vigraha, he is the supreme controller, right? The living entities are controlled with the cosmic manifestation, the eternal time factor, the 5 topics. The Lord appears as Karanadaksai Vishnu, Mahavishnu, right? And then the Garbhadaksai Vishnu and Shirodaksai Vishnu. The Supreme Lord can be realized in the 3 levels, Brahman, right? The Sat aspect, eternal aspect of the Lord, like the sun rays, and then the localized aspect of the Lord is realized through Paramatma, right? That is like seeing the sun disk, and then the realization of Bhagavan, right? Lord Sri Krishna is like realizing the sun god within the sun planet, Satchidananda Vigraha, right? So all this nicely Prabhupada introduces the themes what we studied already in this introduction. The 24 elements as described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verses 6 to 7, right? The 5 great elements, the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, the 5 working senses, the 5 objects of senses, and then the mind, intelligence, and false ego, and the unmanifested material energy, pradhan, right? When all they interact, right, the field of action is generated, right? On the field of action, the 6 types of transformation the living entity goes through, right? They takes birth, they grow, and they stays for some time, produces byproducts or offspring, dwindles down and dies, right? The living entity is going through this happiness and distress in this material world because of their desire and hatred towards the Lord. Desire to enjoy the material world independent of the Lord, and then hatred towards the Lord, so that I want to take up his position, right? The symptom of the living entity is the consciousness, right? The living entity is covered by the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All these things we covered nicely before. This is the overview of the Vedic knowledge. Prabhupada also gives Shruti and Smriti, And then within Shruti, the Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva Veda, within that the divisions of knowledge, Samhitas, mantras, right? The Brahmanas, ritual explanation, Aranyakas, Upanishads, all of them are there. And then Upavedas, Dhanurveda, Ayurveda, etc. And then Vedangas, the limbs of the Vedas, one has to know to study the Veda properly. The Kalpa, the Shiksha, the Vyakarana, Nirukti, and Chandas and Jyotisha. Under Smriti comes this, the ritual sutras, the tantras, pancharatras, puranas, itihasas, and shad darshanas. Within sutras, the Shauta sutras, the Grihi sutras, and Dharma sutras. And then apart from sutras, there are shastras, the Dharma shastra, Manu shastra, Manu samhita, all of them are there. The tantras, again the tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic, three types of tantras spoken by the Lord Shiva to Parvati, it is mentioned. The three types of tantras. And the Pancharatras, worshipping the, how to worship the Lord, the Vaishnava worship, the Pancharatras are mentioned. And the Puranas, the 18 major Puranas, Mahapuranas, and the Upapuranas, minor Puranas are mentioned. And then Itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata, the Shad Darshanas, right? Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, and Vedanta, right? All this is the overview of the Vedic literature. Of all the overview of Vedic literature, Gita is the essence. The summary of all the Vedic knowledge is given in this Gita Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita. So these are the three types of evidences, Prasthana Traya, the three types of Shruti Shastra. Shruti Prasthana, Upanishads, the Vedic instruction. Smriti Prasthana, remembrance of the Lord through Bhagavad Gita and Purana and Mahabharata, indicating the ultimate goal of life. And the Nyaya Prasthana, by logic, right, one can understand that, that Supreme Lord is the Supreme Absolute Truth. The example of that logic is established in the Vedanta Sutra, Brahma Sutra, and 555 aphorisms is mentioned. This study of Vedanta Sutra, right, different schools of thoughts. Shankaracharya gave the Advaita school of thoughts. He wrote a commentary called Sharirika Bhashya. And then Ramanacharya gave the Vishishta school. He wrote Shri Bhashya, the commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And then Madhvacharya, right, gave the Advaita school of Vedanta. And then he wrote Purna Pragya Bhashya of Vedanta Sutra. Vallabhacharya wrote Shuddha Advaita. He gave the teachings in the Shuddhaita school. He wrote Anubhashya on Vedanta Sutra. And Nimbarkacharya, right, gave the Advaita school of thoughts. And then he gave Vedanta Parijata Shaurabha Bhashya on Vedanta Sutra. And then Baladeva Vidyabhushana, who comes in the lineage of Lord Chaitanya, right? He came from the school of Achintya Veda Tattva, and then he gave Govinda Bhashya commentary on Vedanta Sutra. These are the various commentaries by different acharyas, including Shankaracharya. Right? The four Vaishnava Sampradaya, as I mentioned, right, is Brahma Sampradaya. The founder is Lord Brahma, right? The most recent Acharya is Madhvacharya. In that lineage only, Lord Chaitanya also took initiation. And then other Sampradaya is started by Goddess Lakshmi, the most recent Acharya, and that is Ramanujacharya Acharya, the Shri Sampradaya or Shri Vaishnava Sampradaya. And then he wrote the commentary called Shri Bhashya. And then Rudra Sampradaya is the most recent Acharya, is Vishnu Swami, and Vallabhacharya also came in the same Sampradaya. And then Sarvagya Bhashya and Anubhashya commentaries are written in that Rudra Sampradaya. And then Kumara Sampradaya is established by the four Kumaras of the sons of Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, right? So Nimbarka Acharya is the most recent Acharya, and he wrote the commentary Parijata Shaurabha Bhashya, and he comes with the school of Dvaita Advaita Vada. And then, as I said, Shankaracharya establishes this Saririka Bhashya, Advaita Vada, and then the Mayavada school comes in that lineage. The summary of Vedanta Sutra again comes in Bhagavad Gita itself, given, right? The two types of living entity, 15th chapter, 16th, 17th, 8, 7, 15.16, 18, and 19. These verses called the Trishloki of Bhagavad Gita, which gives the summary of the Vedanta Sutra. The summary of Vedanta Sutra is three conclusions are given. right? There are two types of living entities, fallible and infallible. All the living entities in the material world, they are fallible, struggling with their mind and senses. In the spiritual world, the residents of the spiritual world, they are infallible. They are all associates of the Lord. And then beyond this fallible and infallible is the Paramatma, the maintainer of the world. Beyond this Paramatma is Purushottama, the supreme personality of Godhead. And he is the source of both Brahman and Paramatma. The object of all knowledge is to know him. So this is the summary of the Vedanta Sutra based on Bhagavad Gita itself. You can understand. Vedic knowledge, right, as we said, is beyond these four types of fault we all have. Imperfect senses, we commit mistakes, we commit because of the mistakes, we commit illusion. Because of the illusion, when we make mistake, we try to cheat, right? So Vedic knowledge is beyond these four defects. It is not created by any human being, aparojya, not of human origin. And Bhagavad Gita is essence of all this Vedic scripture. One should understand, accept Bhagavad Gita without any false interpretation. Vedic knowledge, Vedas, is not a matter of material research. It comes down in parampara. When we accept as it is given in parampara, one can realize the knowledge, one can actually realize the Lord in the heart. Right? How to understand this Bhagavad Gita? Right? Originally, Bhagavad Gita is spoken to Bhishma Pitamaha, Brahma, the original grandfather, the greatest personalities, the original father of all the living entities. And Krishna is the father of Brahma, and he imparts this knowledge in the beginning, and then he gave to Narada Muni. Narada Muni gave to his disciple Vyasadev, and Vyasadev spoke in this disciplic section. It was coming right to Madhavacharya. It comes to all of us in the parampara. The goal of human form of life is to realize the importance of human form of life, and then attain the goal, that is by understanding all the Vedic literature, the essence of all the Vedic literature, that is Bhagavad Gita. When we properly utilize Bhagavad Gita knowledge, one can go back to spiritual world. We can attain our Swarupa Siddhi, which is the Sanatana Dharma. So again, Dharma, right? There are two types of Dharma, right? Dharma for the body and Dharma for the soul. Swadharma and Swarupa Dharma. Swadharma is Dharma of the body, based on one's position in this material world, based on Varna and Ashrama, one should discharge the duty. That is Swadharma. Swarupa Dharma is the duty of the soul, which is eternal. The duty of the soul is to love and to be loved. The duty of the soul is to serve the Supreme Lord. And by rendering devotional service to the Supreme Lord, one can attain the Swarupa Siddhi, constitutional position. That is our original constitutional position. It again, Krishna also talks about the demigod worship mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Demigod worship is not approved in Bhagavad Gita. One should respect the demigods, but one should not approach them for material benefits, because by getting material benefits, we will continue to stay in the material world only. The Lord appears in the material world to recover us back to spiritual world by enacting his pastimes in Vrindavan, by attracting towards his pastime. Then we can go back to spiritual world. That's why the Lord appears, right? The Lord is in the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. Goloka Vrindavan, as in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, that abode of mine is not illuminated by sun, moon, fire, or electricity. It is self-illuminated, or Brahma Jyoti, the effulgence of the Lord. One who enters spiritual world never comes back into the material world. Right? In the material world, again, each and every universe has this 14 planetary systems, right? The middle planetary systems called Bhuloka, above that is Bhovarloka, Svargaloka, Maharaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. Below that is Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasa, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala, that is 7 lower planetary system. Below that is the hellish planets, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the structure of our universe. Everywhere in all the 14 planetary systems, everybody has to go through Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, birth, death, old age, and disease. Right? So there is only remedy is to come out of this material world, go back to spiritual world. When we attain spiritual world, there is no more birth, old age, and disease, and we will never take birth again. Right? That's what Krishna promises. The material world is like a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Whatever exists in the spiritual world exists in the material world through reflection. How, if there is an image of a tree, when we see in a body of water, right? Everything is what is there in the tree is there in the image as well, but the image is not real. It is just the reflection, right? Similarly, whatever exists in the spiritual world exists in the material world as a reflection. What is that reflection? That is our desire to enjoy. Reflecting medium is our desire to enjoy independent of the Lord, right? Because of that reflection, we come into this existence in this material world. Everything is nothing but temporary manifestation of the original thing. Whatever variety we see in this material world exists in the spiritual world in the real form. The branch, the root, the twigs, the leaves, all of them are described of this tree. The 15th chapter, Krishna nicely describes this banyan tree of material existence. This material tree exists because of the material desire to enjoy independent of the Lord. The roots are going upwards, that is towards, that is starting from Brahmaloka. The secondary roots are growing downwards, that is the Bhuloka, and they exist because of our attachment and aversion, because of our bondage to material activities. The branches, some upper, there are upper and lower planets in this 14 planetary systems are represented by the branches in this banyan tree, Ashwatthana tree. And then the leaves are the Vedic hymns, the twigs are the sense objects, the tip of the branches are the senses, the fruits of the tree is Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. The living in it is involvement. They are just going from one branch to another branch, from one body to another body, thinking that I can be happy in this material world. The nourishment for this tree comes from the three modes, the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, sattva guna, rajo guna, and tamo guna. Right? So if one hears knowledge of Bhagavad Gita properly, one will develop detachment from this material tree of existence. Through the weapon of knowledge, one can cut down this material tree by cutting down this attachment to the material tree with a weapon of knowledge, that is called detachment. One can go back to spiritual world by surrendering to the Lord. Once we surrender to the Lord, one can attain the supreme abode of the Lord. Right? That is what Krishna recommends in the Bhagavad Gita. When we attain the spiritual world, right, we exist spiritually, eternally in the spiritual world, right, as an associate, the different forms, as a friend, as a lover, as a servant, as a mother, right, like that. In one of the forms, one can have a relationship. All this relationship which exists in the spiritual world, that's what exists in the material world as a reflection. Right? How to attain the abode of spiritual world of Krishna, right? By giving up this false designation, nirmana moha, free from designation. When we give up our bodily designation of I'm man, woman, president, right? I'm the king, I am the manager, I am the husband, I am the wife, all this designation, when we give up the bodily designation, then we can attain the real Svarupa of the Lord. By attaining our real Svarupa, right? That is going back to spiritual world. This can be achieved by surrendering to the Lord. So Bhagavad Gita, right, gives the such Chit Ananda aspects by when we remember the Lord while quitting the body, right? We can go back to spiritual world. Krishna says, Anta kalacha mameva smaran mutva kalevaram yaprayati samatbhavam yati natyatra samshayaka. By remembering the Lord at the time of death, one goes back to spiritual world. He never takes birth again. In the next verse, Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajati yanti kalevaram tam tam niti asteya satatat bhava bhavataka. Krishna is telling, if you remember whatever you remember at the time of death, that will be our destination. If you remember me, you will come to spiritual world. When you remember about the material world, you will remain the material world only. Right? So the different types of transcendentalist we talked about, right? The Brahma Jyoti is realized by Brahmavadis or Paramatmavadis. Is realizing the Paramatma, and then the devotees are realizing the Bhagavan. So the purpose of the Vedic literature is to transfer our material thoughts into spiritual thoughts, right? That's what the Puranas and the Vedas, all of them are teaching us to transform our material thoughts into spiritual thoughts so that we can remember the Lord at the time of death. And Krishna advises to Arjuna that always think of me and become my devotee. Use your intelligence and mind. Fix your intelligence and mind on me. Manmana bhav mad bhakto matyajimam namaskuru. Mam eva ishayashi satyante pratijana priyosimi. He is saying, you will attain to my abode if you always think of me, if you become my devotee, if you surrender unto me. Right? This is the instruction Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. Right? The human society is divided into four forms according to the work. Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter, Chaturvarnam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vivaksha, based on one's, quality, right? And based on one's work. One is classified into Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, not based on birth. Based on one's quality and work determines one's guna and karma determines the varna, not janma and karma. It is guna and karma determines one's varna, not by birth, by one's quality and one's work. Right? Krishna also tells in the 5th chapter and the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the topmost yogi is one who attains abode of me, once become a devotee. One who has great faith in me, one who abides me, one always think of me, one who renders devotional service unto me. He is most intimately united with Krishna in yoga. Right? When we develop a strong sense of love for Krishna, right? In that strong sense of love for Krishna, one will be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. So how do we work? We work through our body and senses, mind and intelligence. When we dedicate all our activity through body and senses, it's Karma Yoga. When we dedicate all our activity through intelligence, it's Jnana Yoga. When we dedicate all our activity through mind, that is Dhyana Yoga. When we dedicate everything through our heart by love, that is Bhakti Yoga. Total absorption in the thoughts of Krishna. That is the secret of Bhagavad Gita. Right? The 9 types of devotional service we talked about. Navaveda Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Right? All these things we saw already. I'm going to skip all these things. And then how to attain absorption in the nectar of devotion. Srila Rupa Goswami gives this instruction. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, nicely in chanting and remembering the Lord's divine names, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes. Thereby, gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Braja, Vrindavan Dhamma, and serve Krishna under the guidance of the devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. By following in their footsteps, we can also do the same thing. Of all these 9 things, the most important is Shravanam and hearing and chanting Kirtanam. By doing this, one will be able to Smaranam, remember the Lord at the time of death. Right? Again, this commentary given by Bhakti Saraswati Thakur on this nectar of instruction, right? The different stages of remembering is given. Shravanadasa is the hearing, Varanadasa is the acceptance, and Smaranavastha is remembering and chanting in ecstasy, and Sampati Dasa, his revived relationship with the Lord, on revived her relationship or revealed, Lord's relationship revealed in this Sampati Dasa stage. Again, the 5 stages of remembrance, interrupted stage, uninterrupted stage, uninterrupted and concentrated stage. Meditating becomes very constant, uninterrupted, unceasing, anusmriti. That is called samadhi. Right? All these things are mentioned by, understood, realized through Bhagavad Gita. And how to cultivate devotional service from Mundaka Upanishad we can understand. Tad Vidyartham Shagurum Eva Vichadit. Samapit Pani Shrotayam Brahmanishtam. To understand the things properly, one must humbly approach with firewood in hand a spiritual master who is learned in the Vedas and firmly devoted to the absolute truth. So this is the most important aspect of understanding Bhagavad Gita. One should approach a bona fide spiritual master. One should keep the mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should actually, when in this way, when you approach the spiritual master, one can get the ultimate realization, ultimate attainment as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So it is open to everyone. There is no restriction. Anybody and everybody can get the benefit of Bhagavad Gita simply by following the process. So by adopting the principles given in Bhagavad Gita, one can attain perfection in life and solve the real problems. Janma Mrityu, Jara Vyadi, Dukkha, Dosha, Anudarshanam. Yes, Prashant ji actually sent a message. Can you post the slides? Definitely. I'll post the slides in the same folder right after the class. So in the end of we are coming to the end of this introduction, what Prabhupada had given in the 36 pages. So in the end of introduction, he talks about the Gita Mahatmya. He quotes the verses, Gita Shastra Midam Punyam, Japadet Prayata Puman. Right? If one properly follows the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, one can be freed from all miseries and all anxieties of life. Right? Bhaya Shokadi Varjataka. One will be freed from all fears in this life and one's next life. One will attain the spiritual world. Right? Gita Dhyana Shilasya Pranayama Parasya Naiva Shantihi Papani Purva Janma Kritani. If one reads Bhagavad Gita very sincerely with all seriousness, then by the grace of the Lord, the reactions of his past misdeeds will not act upon him. Sarvadharman Paratyeja Mamekam Sharanam Raja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami Ma Suchaka. Abandon all varieties of religion, and then one can, by abandoning all varieties of religion, by surrendering unto him, one can be saved from all sinful reactions. This is the promise Krishna gives, the 18th chapter, 66th verse. This is the final instruction Krishna gives to Arjuna. So again, Gita Mahatmya, Marine Mochanam Pumsam, Jala Snanam Dine Dine, Shakrit Gita Amrita Snyanam, Samsara Mananashanam. One may cleanse himself daily by taking bath in the water. But if one takes a bath even once in the sacred Ganges of water of Bhagavad Gita, for him the dirt of material life is altogether vanquished. Gita Sugita Kartavya, Kim Anya Shastra Vishtarehi. Ya Swayam Patmanabhasya Mukha Patmat Vinikirshata. Because Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, one need not read any other Vedic literature. One need only attentively and regularly hear and read Bhagavad Gita. In the present age, people are so absorbed in the mundane activities that it's not possible for them to read all the Vedic literatures. But this is not necessary. This one book, Bhagavad Gita, will suffice because it is the essence of all Vedic literatures, and especially because it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. Bharatamrita Sarvasham Vishnu Vakrit Vinikrishtam Gita Gandhoktam Pitva Punarjanma Na Vidyate. One who drinks the water of Ganges attains salvation. So what to speak of one who drinks the nectar of Bhagavad Gita? right? Bhagavad Gita is the essential nectar of Mahabharata that is spoken by Lord Krishna, who is the original Vishnu. And Gita Maganti my sixth Sarva Upanishida Gavo, Dr. Gopala Nandana, Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta, Duktam Gita Amartamaka. This Gita Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, the essence of all the Upanishad is just like a cow. Lord Krishna, who is famous as a cowherd boy, is milking this cow. Arjuna is just like a calf, and the learned scholars and the pure devotees are to drink the nectarian milk of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita Mahatmya, 7th shloka. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putram Gitam. Ekadevo Devaki Putram Eva. Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani. Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. In this present age, people are very much eager to have one scripture, one God, one religion, and one occupation. Therefore, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putram Gitam. Let there be one scripture only. That is Bhagavad Gita. Eko Deva Putra Devaki Putra, right? It is saying, let there be one God to the whole world, that is Lord Shri Krishna. Eko Mantra Tasya Namani. Let there be one mantra, that is the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let there be one work for the whole world, that is nothing but service to the Supreme Lord. Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. Right? Again, in the end of the introduction, Prabhupada also quotes the disciplic succession through which he is coming. We saw this also before. Krishna, the original speaker of Bhagavad Gita, from Krishna comes to Brahma, Brahma receives Narada, from Narada receives Vyasa, from Vyasa, Madhvacharya, from Madhvacharya to Padmanabha, Narahari, Madhva, and Akshobhya, Jayatirtha, Jnanasindhu, Dayanidhi, Vidyanidhi, Rajendra, Jayadharma, Purushottama, Brahmanya Tirtha, Vyasa Tirtha, Lakshmipati, Madhavendra Puri, Ishvara Puri, and Lord Chaitanya, Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, Narottama Das Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladeva Vidyabhushana, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Siddhanath Saraswati Thakur, and finally Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is the disciplic succession in which he is presenting Bhagavad Gita as it is received. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshyo sakalena magata yoga nashta parantapa. The same spirit what Krishna is speaking, the disciplic succession, Srila Prabhupada is presenting in this Bhagavad Gita. That is what. So in the 700 slokas, when Prabhupada writes the commentary and translation, he presents the same spirit. This Bhagavad Gita, the structure, right? There are 700 slokas of Bhagavad Gita. One shloka is spoken by Dhritarashtra, the first sloka we are going to see, the first chapter. And then Sanjaya speaks 41 slokas out of the 700 slokas, and Arjuna speaks 84 slokas, and Krishna speaks 574 sloka. Arjuna, most of the slokas, right, in the first chapter, quite a few of them are spoken by Sanjaya, and later the last chapter again by Sanjaya, and Arjuna speaks the second half of the first chapter, and then quite a few questions he further asks, starting from the second chapter till the 18th chapter. And then Krishna actually speaks from the beginning of second chapter throughout Bhagavad Gita up to 18th chapter. Most of the sloka is spoken by Krishna. This is the breakup of all the 700 slokas in Bhagavad Gita. So we stopped here today. We completed the introduction, the overview of the introduction, 36 pages. So I highly recommend, during the rest of the weeks, the actual text from the introduction. Please read. You can use this. I will share the slides. You can use this as a guide for you to understand as well. So next week, the structure of Gita, we are going to see the 3 divisions. Chapter 1 to 6, 1 division. Chapter 7 to 12, 1 division. And then chapter 13 to 18, 1 division. The structure of Gita we are going to see next week. So we stop here. Any comments, any questions at this time?
I have just an observation. Is it correct or not? Would like your comments. Your presentation, the reason I asked is about first third of it to half. The introduction covers everything almost slide by slide, but the later half, I didn't see that information in introduction. Is that correct, or I didn't read the introduction properly?
So yes, you are right. So what we are doing is this is the slides. What we are covering is whatever the knowledge Prabhupada is giving, we are giving more expansion to give substantiation on this concept Prabhupada introduces in the slides.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because whatever given by Prabhupada, right? So, sometimes, we are not well versed in the domain of spirituality. So from the other references from Bhagavatam and other Puranas, we get given in the slides the expansion of those concepts. For example, Prabhupada, when he talks about Veda, we give the Vedic tree, the slides I showed, the entire Shruti and Smriti, the divisions. Prabhupada does not describe in the introduction, but we are giving it because from the other sources we brought all those things. So this basically acts as a reference material to understand those concepts given in the introduction as well.
Good, thank you. That will be helpful. Review.
Definitely we will share the slides. These are all basically the research material which will enhance our understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you. So any other comments? Any other questions? You already read the introduction. I am very happy to hear that, Prashant ji.
Yeah. But I think your explanation was helpful in reinforcing that. And
the problem, is, in the current age, our comprehension is very much deteriorated because of all the distraction in the world. So in the beginning, in the Satya Yuga and all, people just chant everything by mantra they can understand. So later, things has to be broken down into different books. That's why Vedas were only one in the beginning. Just one compilation. He divided into many compilations for the benefit of humankind. So that same thing divided into many books, the acharyas give darshana to understand, the commentary. Now, the commentary the Prabhupada had given in paragraphs in the introduction, that is also difficult to comprehend in our life. Hence, we need the slides and visuals to break down those paragraphs into pictures, which will help us our understanding, Because in the current age, before people used to read paragraphs and understand. Now we need more, visuals to understand more, because of the distractions we have in this world. So that is why we are adding all these slides instead of just reading the texts what Prabhupada had given. So for chapter by chapter, when we are going through also, we will have all the slides, visuals, which will help us to comprehend better. So thank you very much. If there is no further question, we'll come to conclusion today. And then we'll continue next week on the structure of the Gita and the flow of Gita, the 18 chapters.
Thank you, Madhavji.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.